Tonight on PhillyCAM Voices, we have a segment on queer arm wrestling, a segment on an exhibition of Kurt Vonnegut Jr.'s visual artwork at Drexel University, a segment on how the Trump administration's immigration policies are affecting immigrant Philadelphians, and to close the show tonight, we have an in-studio interview with Exoneree Daniel Gwynn. Good evening, and thank you for tuning into PhillyCAM Voices. I'm your host, Chinchilla Jonicia. You don't want to miss this one. Queer Arm Wrestling is a fundraising and networking event where queers and their friends are their fullest and strongest selves. Through their work, they support local campaigns for justice, equity, and joy. Sheila Lorette Emerson and Kaisa Morse bring us this story.
Queer Arm Wrestling is a community fundraising event, creating spaces for queers and their friends to come together, celebrate creativity and strength, and raise money for justice, equity, joy-based organizations. The show is built on participation. Costumes and characters are encouraged at events, but by no means required. Thank you so much for being here tonight. If you could put your hands together.
Hi, my name is Jet, and I am the person that runs Queer Arm Wrestling in Philadelphia. Queer Arm Wrestling was inspired by Guns of Steel Baltimore, a women's and non-binary arm wrestling competition, and also Awful Wrestling, which is right here in Philadelphia. I'm a part of that, and Guns of Steel Baltimore actually came up and did a spot with Awful, and I loved it, so yeah. So the way that this works is that people can sign up to compete and put their name in a hat. They self-identify their strength level from noodle arm to Popeye, and at 8 o'clock, we're gonna draw from the hat to try to fill in our bracket over here. We're gonna have a winner for the noodle arms, and we're gonna have a winner for the Popeyes, so it's fair, and really the point is that we're having a good time, so that's what we're here for. Can I get a countdown, please? In 3, 2, 1, I feel like community spaces like this are more important now than ever. Being able to share space together, be in competition, be in opposition with each other, celebrating our dichotomies and our differences and our friendships above all, I think is really important, and that's what Queer Arm Wrestling is about.
I'm a really good friend of Jet, and I help out and do weird sound effects and help them with some logistics when they need it because they're wonderful and help me so much with Awful Wrestling, so I'm always happy to return the favor. We're not exactly trained wrestlers. It's like your typical like WWE wrestling, but it's very much more of like a comedy-themed wrestling show. Oh, I just love seeing how excited everyone is and the smiles on people's faces, similar to Awful Wrestling. It just like makes me happy seeing just how happy everyone is, and you know, people making new friends and having this great shared experience.
Can you please introduce yourselves, and what does love mean to you?
Hello everyone, my name is Willow Wizard. I would say love is about like endless discovery.
I'm Neil with a KN. And love is honesty without fear.
I feel like arm wrestling is such a beautiful expression of queer strength and bonding. I love it, yeah. I was looking forward to seeing people like really getting into it and like getting hyped for each other.
Just have some fun and have great company with other queer straight people.
I have a passion for arm wrestling. Yeah, I really do. Just to laugh. Just to laugh, to have some fun, be around gay people.
We just got done celebrating Valentine's Day. We had a nice dinner and just wanted something else fun to do and be around other gay people.
Yeah, I want to see some sexy lovers throw down in the ring tonight.
I just think it'd be really fun to arm wrestle, to see people wrestle.
Yeah, we're here to
take some people down. Yeah.
3, 2, 1, go!
So you can find out more information by following Queer Arm Wrestling on Instagram at Queer Arm Wrestling.
Heather Rose and Lynn Clouser Waddell discuss an exhibition of artwork by the writer Kurt Vonnegut, taking place at Drexel University's Paul Peck Center Gallery. Reporter Jason Rose brings us this story.
I'm Heather Rose, and I am sharing a collection of about 20 pieces of Kurt Vonnegut Jr.'s artwork with the Drexel Founding Collection in an exhibit that'll be called Kurt Vonnegut Jr. as a Visual Artist. That'll be starting this March.
Hi, my name is Lynn Clouser Waddell. I'm the Executive Director of University Collections and Exhibitions at Drexel University and the Director of the Drexel Founding Collection, which is the university's flagship collection of fine and decorative arts. We host multiple exhibitions across campus, including loan exhibitions. And this show, Kurt Vonnegut Jr. as a visual artist, will be on display in our Paul Peck Alumni Center Gallery starting March 14th. This exhibition is unique because it is a collection of rarely seen, or not seen since at least the 80s, drawings by Kurt Vonnegut Jr., who is known as an author. So to be able to see kind of his branching out into other artistic ventures is exciting. It also, a number of these drawings incorporate his literary legacy, or you can at least spend the time to kind of figure out how they're connected to his kind of literary world. The space that it's in, our Paul Peck Alumni Center, is a gorgeous building, but it's also a very intimate setting that allows people the time to really spend with these pieces by Kurt Vonnegut.
So I was inspired to organize the exhibition by my belief that the public should have access to this art, and generally that the public should have access to art. Much like his writing, this visual art speaks to people the same way that Kurt Vonnegut's literary art speaks to people. It tells messages. It's just absolutely fascinating to look at and think about, and it seemed to me not right for it to be hidden away from the public. I wanted the public, the general public, and not just a select slice of the public, to have access to it, to know this side of Kurt Vonnegut, and to be able to look at it and think about it and see it and share it. I mean, my intent was to share it with the people who are passionate about Kurt Vonnegut, and hopefully create a whole new group of people that appreciate Kurt Vonnegut as much as I do. I got interested in Kurt Vonnegut as a visual artist, following on my passion in him as a literary artist. I love documentaries. Documentaries are pretty much my favorite kind of television, or I guess media, to watch. And I was watching a documentary about him, and some of the imagery in the documentary was his visual art. And then I really spiraled trying to find out more about his visual art, and was so fascinated that I had known so much about him for so long, I thought, and didn't know this aspect of him. And then I love to research and learn about people, and really then just went down the tunnel of learning more, and went down the road of trying to secure a couple of originals, and then ended up securing a nice collection of some originals. So on one hand, parts of this artwork are quite literally part of his literary legacy. There are characters that are from his literary legacy. We have his famous, butthole from Breakfast of Champions. There are characters that I think people can sit around and ask, is this a literary character? This woman, I wonder if she is one of the love interests from Cat's Cradle. I asked myself that the first time I saw her. There's another woman who I wondered if she was like, kind of the horse-faced woman from Cat's Cradle. There's Merlin, who he was fascinated with, and he's in the collection. There's somebody that I wonder, is this Sallow from Sirens and Titans? So there's characters that are just literally literary characters. There's also self-portraits. Then there's other aspects that I think are just kind of Vonnegutonian. He was incredibly thoughtful about weaving narratives together across books, across volumes and volumes of book through time. So you'll see characters continually repeat in a really astoundingly thoughtful way that to me spoke to how smart he was, and how good his writing was. So you'll just say, oh my gosh, like this character from Breakfast of Champions is now popping up in Mr. Rosewater and across Galapagos, and these books that span huge stretches of time, and narratives have this, it's almost like lace. It's like looking at lace. And I feel like that is happening here in the art. Lynn, I'd love to get your feelings and thoughts on this.
For me, I mean, there's the obvious, the Merlin. I do not know many of his characters from his literary characters, but what I do notice and across his artwork is a similarity between particularly his portraits of women. And when you speak about these characters that he continues to bring back in his literary legacy, you can kind of see that through his visual arts with the female characters, the female portraits are very similar. There's a real link between his pieces, particularly through the portraits of women and also the characters that he has.
We should talk about some of the additional programming that we have lined up with the show.
So one of the really amazing aspects of this exhibition is the programming that we have developed for the show. We are in partnership with the Free Library, and they will be hosting a creative arts therapy program as well as a panel discussion with the Philadelphia Volunteer Lawyers for the Arts. And here in the Peck Center, we will have writing workshops with Drexel University's Writers' Room. The exhibition, Kurt Vonnegut Jr. as a visual artist, will be running at the Paul Peck Alumni Center Gallery at Drexel University, March 14th through July 19th, and will be open to the public Wednesdays through Saturdays, 11 to 4 p.m. People should come. Come to the show.
Please come.
Reporter Kaisa Morris sat down with Marcos, a business owner at the Italian market in South Philadelphia, and his daughter, Alma, to talk about their experience as Trump puts out more executive orders regarding immigration and deportation.
I'm working on Italian market for the last about 28 years. For many reasons, I feel I'm part of this community. I try to say that the Italian market is like the door for the new immigrants.
I have grown up in the market my whole life, so I grew up here, and I've been working alongside him ever since. So I don't think there is going to be a strike anytime soon.
In the market, I feel like it's many people divide because one is they like the Trump they do and some not. So I feel it's like kind of division.
There was hearsay about a raid, that there was going to be, that ICE was going to come to the Italian market. So what many children of the immigrant-owned businesses did were not send their parents to work, literally, and they worked instead that day. So many, including my cousins, I know that they went to work instead of my aunts and uncles. So I would say that they did feel it. I would say that they feel like it is going to happen or something is going to happen. I feel like they have had that feeling. I feel like I did actually have a conversation with my parents. I asked if they feel it more now than when it was in 2016, if they felt like that same feeling, that the fear that they did like back then, and they said that this is 2 times worse, and it's a stronger feeling.
I'm thinking he never feel how feel when you come in from another country, and because you you governments there, they know give the opportunities, they know help you and run to looking for another place to have protection for I and my family and the new generation. If I want to pay fine, I do, but right now the door is closed. I participate on the American community and everything, and it's not enough. I come in because my government, they don't help me, and I come in another country and I feel the same. So they still hurt. They want to send me to my country, but my daughter's American citizen. They want to fight for me, I think, you know. So we still produce, you know, and I show my family, my daughters. I say, this country, this fantastic, you know. You need to create. You need to think like the first people came on the United States. I have good people that work. We try to create something, you know. So we try to teach the new generation. But it's not. I'm an immigrant. We coming with nothing in my hands. Just only my hope. And this is my hope. It's still on my heart. I have a Mexican culture. My daughter have American culture, and we have a culture clash. So, and also now implement the immigration and the hurt, you know. So
yeah, that's actually what I want to go to college for, immigration law. That's actually what I'm in the process of trying to do.
Dile que cuando las personas nos preguntan si todo está bien, nosotros damos una sonrisa. Okay. Aunque nuestro corazón nos da ansias, nos da miedo.
He said that when other people ask them like, oh, like, how do you guys feel about it? They say like they're fine, but in their heart they feel anxious and worried. My parents, I want to say my parents were the first ones to migrate here in the U.S. They were one of the first to migrate here before the 2000s. So everybody just really depends on them. Everybody just goes to them as a face and relies on them per se.
Now, joining me in studio is Daniel Gwynn. Daniel is a man who spent 30 years wrongfully behind bars, serving a life without parole sentence. On February 28, 2024, a judge in Philadelphia overturned that sentence. Let's find out how Daniel and his art kept him focused while he was inside, and now also on the outside. He's focused and his art is making an impact in society. Let's welcome Daniel Gwynn to the studio. So you spent 30 years behind bars wrongfully for a crime you did not commit. Share with the viewers today, what was that crime that you spent all of those years behind bars, 3 decades, that you did not commit?
Well, the crime that I committed was being ignorant of my rights.
Okay.
But what they convicted me of was arson, murder of Miss Marsha Smith.
Okay.
And she was a young lady who was a squatter inside of a building where she was addicted to drugs and falling on hard times with the other residents.
Okay.
But they, too, are victims of society because our streets were flooded with drugs, propaganda that made us feel as though we were lesser than that, than we actually were. So, therefore, they were in their building and they had gotten to some kind of altercation with someone, and the person took it out on them and put the place in a blaze. Now, we don't know exactly who that individual is, okay? But for some reason that we still do not understand to this day, how the police came to put the crime on me.
Wow.
What we do know is that the evidence against me was fabricated. So they came, picked me up, took me in the interrogation room, and they interrogated me. They used these tactics where they shackle you to a chair, put you in a room for hours, and then they start slamming things around and doing very intimidating tactics to coerce you into saying whatever they want you to say. Me, like I said, I was ignorant of my rights because I was running around young and stupid. I didn't want to go to school. I didn't want to act right.
Okay.
But
Wow. So 30 years later, you're home. Last year, exonerated.
yes,
And that's just so amazing. And it's great that you're out. But during those 30 years behind bars, like, what was it like mentally for you, Daniel?
well, in the beginning, I tried to commit suicide because the police tactics were so evasive, mentally evasive, that I actually started believing that I committed the crime.
Wow.
But once I was awakened to the fact that I didn't, I got mad. I got angry. I didn't get angry at the police. I didn't get angry at the system. I got angry at myself for not knowing any better. So what I did was I put the drugs away. I went and tried to get myself help, but the system, they didn't want to help me. They wanted me to remain ignorant. So I found the library. So I started reading, started writing, started communicating with other individuals that was like-minded.
Okay.
Then I was using my artwork at the time, which was just little sketches and stuff like that, to help other individuals communicate with their loved ones. And that gave me enough money to buy books, writing materials, and things like that, because I didn't come from money. I didn't have a job or a bank account or anything like that, money saved up. So I had to hustle in order to get those little scraps of things in order to educate myself.
Okay.
Once I got myself clean, then I ended up, after I was convicted and sentenced to death row, I was met by Harold Wilson, who was another exoneree who is long past, but he put the law books in my hand. He's the one that educated me and told me to get in that law library and learn my rights, read my case, and learn what was wrong with my case, because my lawyers at that time were court-appointed lawyers, and the system only provided one attorney who, frankly, was just another cog in the broken system, who didn't want to do anything. He didn't want to do his job. He didn't want to investigate. He just wanted to try to get me numbers instead of the death penalty or letter or the life sentence.
Okay.
So
Now, how many years did you spend on death row?
I spent 28 years on death row.
Wow, 28 of the 30 you spent
Yes.
on death row.
Yes.
Wow. And what about solitary confinement? Did you ever spend time in the hole?
It's solitary confinement, right, is basically the hole. But we were thrown into the hole, solitary confinement, death row, once we stepped across the threshold, illegally. We weren't supposed to be there, but yet, and though the DOC put us there and the state allowed them to do that, but the law book said that we wasn't supposed to be there.
Wow, wow.
So I was there for 25 years until we figured out that it was illegal and fought for our rights to get out of there. We filed grievances, we filed the lawsuit, and then they had no choice but to let us out. And when they let us out, they did not give us any kind of compensation, nor did they give us any type of education or step-down program to help us integrate back into the general public. They were hoping that we would come out a mess and start fighting each other because of all the tension and hostility built up while we were inside solitary confinement, death row.
Wow, that's really outrageous, very outrageous. Now, yeah, I wish we had more time to really talk more about what happened and all about your case, but we're celebrating today.
Absolutely.
You know, we're celebrating. And why are we celebrating, everybody? Well, because Daniel Gwynn has just celebrated his first anniversary of freedom. And I call it a Freedomversary.
That's right,
And that was
Freedomversary.
February 28th, which was Friday. And yesterday, he had a big celebration, which was amazing. And now we want to look at some of your artwork, Daniel, a couple pieces, because your art is what kept you focused in there. And now your art is just so incredible. And so I definitely want people to look at some of your artwork. So let's look at some of Daniel's artwork. And Daniel, just take maybe 10 seconds to share on each piece, you know, what inspired you with each piece. That's the Tree of Life, and that's one of my favorites, so talk about that.
The Tree of Life is what I painted when I got out. And it's basically the eye of God trying to nurture the tree of life, which all of us are birthed from. But instead of it getting God's truth, man captures God's eye, his tears, and they corrupt it, feeding the tree of life their poison. And now instead of people coming out free and knowledgeable and liberated, they come out imprisoned.
Wow.
Mentally and physically.
Wow.
Until their death.
Wow. All right, next piece of art. Let's take a look. What do we have next?
This is Alienation.
Alienation.
This is about Lady Justice coming out and slicing the chains of oppression, the chains that bind us, you know, mentally and physically, you know.
Wow, wow. Let's take a look at the warrior piece. Now, this is, I just love this one too. This is my
Mother,
favorite.
Queen, Warrior. And this was inspired by a young lady that I met at Mural Arts named Yoshi.
Okay.
And I saw her with her kids, and it reminded me of my own mother when she was out there struggling by herself, a single mother trying to make things happen for me. But while I was in solitary confinement, I didn't understand what my mother was doing out there, her struggle and everything, so I rebelled. Wow. And then now when I'm sitting in solitary confinement, I realize, you know, that not only now that I'm being oppressed, but these same individuals that's oppressing me is the same ones that oppressed her. Wow. And so I'm angry, but her spirit reaches out to me, and it pours her spirit out on me and tells me to cool my head and be calm, because everything will be all right.
Wow. Amazing artwork, Daniel. And Daniel has so many art pieces, and we're just going to love on what we've seen. And, you know, you all can look online later, and we'll have more of his pieces up there, hopefully. And everybody, I just want you all to know, wrongful convictions happen every single day. And fortunately, there are some whose wrongful convictions are overturned. However, there's so many still behind the bars, behind the walls, for crimes that they did not commit. So Daniel, we thank you so much for coming in to PhillyCAM Studios today and sharing your story with us, and also sharing your artwork. Thank you so much, Daniel.
Well, thank you for having me.
You're welcome. All right. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of PhillyCAM Voices. You can also watch our show on YouTube and Roku. Follow us on Facebook and also on Instagram. We'll see you next time.